Good morning. Welcome to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. Thanks for making us part of your Sunday morning here on the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch podcast. Excited to be back for another week live here with everybody. If you're following on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, if you have any questions, comments, please just put them down in the chat. Be more than happy to bring some of those questions and comments on. Excited to talk more football today in just a little bit. We're going to talk to New York Mills alum, current head coach at Lehigh, Kevin Cahill, is going to join me at about 9:10, and then at about 9:30, we'll have friend of the show, new Hartford head football coach Jim Kramer, will join me at about 9:30. The guys are out today. The Statman's playing in a golf outing. Pags is camping. I think Coach Medice's had some internet problems, so Coach won't be on. We'll get the crew back on here at some point throughout the fall. Um, Excited for college football, and college football last night didn't disappoint. Florida State, Georgia Tech down in Ireland. Great game to watch. The theme for me last night watching that game, and then I did watch the Nevada game and SMU, which there's a lot of hype with SMU coming into the ACC. I did not stay up for the midnight game, which was Hawaii and Delaware State. I did not stay up for that, unfortunately. But the theme yesterday to me was very easy, and I think you'll hear Coach Cahill, I think you'll hear Coach Kramer say it, is the more physical team that ran the football, that controlled the line of scrimmage yesterday in both those games won the football. I think Georgia Tech, Brent Pry, I think the job that he did last year, winning 7 games, getting Georgia Tech to a bowl game, winning their first bowl game, I think Georgia Tech's got the personality of their head coach, and you hear that a lot in high school football, college football, even in the NFL, is these teams take on their personality of their head coaches. And when you watch that Georgia Tech game, they were physical. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They ran the football against Florida State. I mean, listen, DJ was okay, but I don't think they attacked downfield. Um, vertically very well against Georgia Tech. They couldn't run the ball against Georgia Tech. And rightfully, at the end of the game, Georgia Tech kicked a game-winning field goal to seal their first win of the season. I think it was their first win against a top 10 team in like 20 years. So hats off to Georgia Tech for kicking their season off yesterday with a huge win. Their schedule doesn't get much easier that the rest of the way. They will play Syracuse week 2, so that game gets a little bit more meeting after seeing Georgia Tech beat Florida State. And then the second game, SMU struggled big time in that game. Their quarterback, Stone, came on at the end of the game, but struggled for most of that game. And Nevada was picked last in the Mountain West Conference. I think Nevada's going to be a lot better this year. Still a long ways to go. But Nevada controlled most of that game. They saw leads slip away late. They should not have lost that game. And then I was watching a little bit of New Mexico. I was watching New Mexico, who got beat to FCS Montana State. And I was really surprised at that game because New Mexico had a 2-touchdown lead in that game, and then Montana State came back. The coach for New Mexico, which I did not know this, Rocco Mendenhall, if you remember the name, Rocco Mendenhall, he got the job, was at Boise State. Then he was the head coach at Virginia, and then now he's got his hands full trying to take over a New Mexico program that has been the bottom of the barrel for a long time. But it was great to see College Game Day in Dublin. I think Nick Saban's going to be fantastic on College Game Day. I do. I think his takes are great. I think the insight, talking about the X's and O's, I think is great. I know people are going to not like me when I say this. Never been a Pat McAfee fan. I'm sorry. I'm not a huge fan. Hopefully he's not who they think is going to take over for Coach Corso down the road, but I'm just not a fan of him. I don't know why. I know he's funny. He's fun. He does all the crazy things and blah, blah, blah. But I'll be honest with you. I'd rather see David Pollock back on College Game Day than him. I don't know why. I think this will probably be his last year with Game Day. I know that he just recently signed his contract to come back. There was some talk that he wasn't going to be coming back for another year, but they're going to bring him back, obviously, and then we'll see what happens for the future. But how great is it now to wake up on Saturday mornings and you got college game day. How great is that? You got football now, I think until what, January, the end of January, we will have the 12-team playoff this year for the first time. Excited for that. I had to go through and look at the format again, as they're going to take the four highest conference champs will get the buys, and then you'll have 5 through 12, which they'll play home games at the higher seed, which is crazy if you think about it. You're talking late November, early December. You could be playing games at Ohio State, Penn State, who knows, maybe in a blizzard, which I think is pretty cool. But then the semifinal games are all gonna be at the BCS, the big bowl games, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and all that. And then this year, the national championship game is in Atlanta. So it's a long college football season. So Florida State yesterday losing the first game, preseason top 10, throw the rankings out. I don't think they should rank any of these teams. It's all based off of last year and it's all based off of, you know, who got what in the transfer portal, who has what coming back. I'm not a big fan, and I think they should rank teams later in the year until you see what these teams have. Um, Mike Norvell made the statement, and I still think Florida State should have been in the playoff last year. And I know losing their quarterback Jordan Travis is 99.9% the reason that they weren't picked to play in the college football playoff was because of that injury. And I think that's unfair, but I get it. Um, Teams put Alabama in. But they had a huge statement to make last night, a huge opening statement in Dublin for that game, and they were flat. They were really flat. But if you're going to get a team like them early in the season, and that's why I think like Michigan's going to go play Texas week 2 at the Big House, and I think that's a night game. If you're going to play the Texases, the Ohio States, the Bamas, the Oregons, you want to play those teams the first 3 weeks of the season. You want to try to catch them when they have a lot of stuff maybe that they're not as sharp on offense. Defensively, they're not as sharp. Guys are still getting in shape, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to play those teams late in the year when they're peaking and they just get on cruise control. I talked about it last week and I'll say it again. I think a lot of the schedules in the Big Ten are easy. I think Ohio State schedule is they got to play Oregon. That's the game this year. Though I think they do play Penn State. Obviously, they'll play Michigan at the end of the year, and I think that'll be the game as it is every year. And especially if Ryan Day loses that game. And I heard a lot on different shows this past week that they said Ryan Day's coaching for his job. The only way Ryan Day loses his job is if he loses to Michigan for a fourth time, which right now they're a double-digit favorite. And I think, again, I think they have the best roster. I think they have the most talent in college football. I think they're the best team in college football. I think Oregon's close. Um, I think Georgia's obviously going to be good again, but I just think from 1 through 11 on offense and defense, Ohio State's the best team in the country. Now, they do have to go to Eugene and play the Ducks, which I think will be another big game across college football. They get Michigan home, and I think they go to Penn State this year. So Ohio State's going to go to Penn State, but until James Franklin can win a big game, I'm not sold that Penn State's going to beat them, at Beaver Stadium this year. Um, so we'll see, but I think it's going to be your Big Ten, your SEC teams, and a lot of the guys yesterday on game day were saying don't sleep on Clemson. I'm not sure. I know they got Kate Klubnik back for the quarterback for Clemson. I think they got a lot of talent back from a year ago. Dabo didn't dive into the transfer portal again. So we'll see what happens with Clemson in the ACC. SMU comes into the ACC this year. A lot of high expectations for them. I think they'll be competitive in the ACC. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. We'll see Syracuse this year. We talked a little bit last week. Fran Brown and his staff, he's got, including him, 3 of the best recruiters in the country. A lot of expectations this year coming in for Fran Brown, and I think the schedule that Syracuse is going to play is relatively easy. That we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I think a 9-3, 8-4, who knows, maybe a 10-2 season, sneak into the playoffs. I know people are going to laugh when you say Syracuse into the playoffs, but you never know with that schedule. So let's see if we got we got Coach Cahill on. I'm going to bring Coach on now, so I do not keep him waiting here this morning. So let's bring Coach on. There's Coach. How are you, my friend?
Good, guys. How are you guys? You can hear me?
I can hear you good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you perfect. Got you perfect.
Coach, I got a roommate of yours coming on up next. I got Coach Kramer coming on.
I saw that. I got excited because good memories of our playing days from just a couple years ago.
Yeah, Jim's a great guy. Jim's great coming
Yeah,
on here with me, and he's done a great job here at New Hartford High School. So another good
yeah,
year he's got set coming up. So how are you?
yeah.
How you been?
I'm doing good. I get excited in the Whitesboro New Hartford rivalry because Curtis went to Springfield, and Jim went to Springfield, and I've got a lot of Springfield ties up there. So I get excited about that game every year.
No, it's they're all great guys. I'll always come on here with me. So, Coach,
Good.
let's talk with some college football. Let's talk about you entering year 2 for you. Expectations coming to this year. I know you're going to return. You played a lot of young guys last year, and you're going to
Yeah.
play a lot of young guys again this year. But you returned some experience.
Yeah, we have some experience return. We have a couple fifth years that came back for us, which is huge. We needed that, and we've got a lot of first years. But those freshmen will be sophomores, and as I say all the time, but they've had a tremendous offseason. So we've got a really big junior class, really big sophomore class, and a really big freshman class, and pair that with the seniors and the fifth year seniors. So this is the year for a big step forward, and I think we can do it. We had a great offseason, so that's the goal right now is to get better each week, and we're going to have to do that to be competitive in our conference.
Yeah, and Coach, I know coaches don't like to hear this sometimes, but I thought you guys played a lot better down the stretch last year. I was looking, and of course, I follow you guys, but you played Fordham to the wire,
Yeah,
which Holy Cross, you played really well against Holy Cross, Colgate, and then you had the rivalry game at the end there against Lafayette. But I thought
yeah.
you guys played better down the stretch.
I agree, and I appreciate that. Our best game of football, unfortunately, was in the second half of up there at Colgate and the first half at Lafayette. We second half against Colgate and pretty good against Lafayette in the first half. But we blew it in the first half against Colgate, and we blew it in the second half against Lafayette, and that's the taste you have in your mouth in the offseason. And we showed we can be competitive in our league. We just got to play better. We hurt ourselves too often, too many mistakes. And you give credit to every team that we play. They beat us, but we feel we beat ourselves in a lot of those games.
So I was looking at the preseason stuff, and I know preseason doesn't matter to coaches, but I was looking at obviously they have Lafayette picked. Lafayette, Fordham's up there, Colgate's up there again, and you guys are towards the bottom of the pack. But
Yeah.
what does the preseason rankings do for you guys? You guys use that as some motivation, saying, you know what, we're going to surprise some teams this year.
We don't even look at it. I'll be honest. Whether we're first, last, wherever, we should be last or close to last. It's all predicated off of the previous season, and we weren't very good last year. So I would imagine when it came out, kind of where we probably would be. And do we look at it? Yeah, that's an outsider's perspective. We really focus on what we can handle, what we can control, and we have to get better. And that started back in November, end of November last year, December last year, just focusing on what we can control and getting bigger, faster, stronger. And we're motivated. Standings to motivate us. We have to get better and be better than a Lehigh football program. Should not be a 2-9 football team, and we've got to get back to what the standard is around here.
I know a lot of coaches will say the same thing, and I just talked to Coach DeCosti last last week, and it's always in the trenches. And I was watching those
Yeah.
games last night, and I said Georgia Tech controlled the line of scrimmage up front against Florida State. I thought Nevada did for most of that game, and they lost. But I know for you, you'd say the same thing. You guys got to get better up front, right?
To be competitive in this league, you got to be able to run the ball. You got to control the clock, run the ball, stop the run, make a team one-dimensional. That's football overall. It's not just in this league, but that's football overall, and we have to get better. We got a lot of returners coming back, and the key is keeping them healthy. I think Stan would probably attest too. Like, everybody's great with the ones, but when a one goes down, you got to put in a 2 or a 3. Those guys got to be ready to play, and you got to do a great job developing those kids in your program to have depth. And be physical, run the ball. You got to do that, and you got to stop the run, but you also have the depth to do it too.
I always say, Coach, it's a tough league top to bottom because I think on any given week anybody can get you. And Holy Cross had a great run with Coach Chesney there, and now Lafayette, and Colgate's playing better. It seems like the league's just getting better year in and year out, and there's no easy weeks.
No, and then this league has just gotten better and better and better. And I think it's the great coaches in this league. They do a great job scheming and putting their players in the best situations possible, and they change week to week, little subtleties, and they do a good job of stopping what you're good at. So I think it's competitive. It's going to be a battle each week, and that's what you want in a Patriot League. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter, the last drive, and you're either going to win that play or not win that play, and you've got to win the game that way.
Coach, talk to us a little bit about the impact of Luke Yoder and Dante Perry for you this season. I know you got a lot of fifth-year guys back, but just talk about those two if you can.
Yeah, Dante being our quarterback, he sat most of the year as the number 2 behind a kid that was here, and that kid has transferred out. And we've got Dante. Dante does a tremendous job mentoring. We've got some young kids in that room right now that we're trying to develop and see what they can do as the season goes on. But Dante has done a great job. He loves this place. He loves Lehigh. He wants to be a winner. He's competitive, and I speak volumes for him. And he's got a lot to work on the field and get better at, and he knows that. He's got to play within what Dante can do and not try to be somebody else. And that's what we've worked on. And then Luke's been steady. I mean, he probably carried the ball a lot more as a first year than we had anticipated, than he had anticipated, but he deserved it, and he did a good job with it. And he just got better as the season went on. He had a great spring, and he's having a good camp too. So there's some competition that he just continues to get better at too.
I always say I love the schedule, the Patriot League. I mean, the Ivies better than anybody coaching in the Ivy League. And I know the Patriot League always plays a lot of the Ivies, but the Patriot League always plays, whether it's Syracuse, Army, Air Force. I mean, the Patriot League goes out and schedules some big teams. And I know that's got to help in the recruiting for a young kid to say, geez, I get a chance to go play at Army. I get a chance to go play at Navy or wherever. Does that non-conference schedule help you guys in recruiting?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you're showing a kid like, hey, you can come and compete. And we always talk about you're trying to recruit the kid that wants to go to FBS, and you're trying to tell him, hey, this is a better opportunity because you can build your resume and get playing time probably a little earlier than you would at some of those other programs. But you're going to play those schools. We're opening up at Army, and the history of that place, and I'm just thrilled to be going there as personally. But it's a competitive game. Army's in the Patriot League for every other sport. In football, they're not. So it's, I also appreciate that, and that them being on the schedule because you're playing a team that is in the league for all the other sports. So it's just, I think it's great. I think it's great for recruiting. I think it's great for our kids to play in those type of atmospheres.
Those military schools are always a tough opening game to play with that triple option. So hard. I used to love it when I was in high school playing it as a quarterback, but Coach, those are tough to defend. Those for an opening game, that's tough.
This has not been fun, and you're trying to figure out, and Army does a great job with their social media. You're trying to dictate what are they doing, and everything they put on social media is a pass, and it's like, all right, I get it. So it's going to be fun. We'll figure out what they're going to do. They're a very, very good offense. They know what they're doing. The quarterback's returning. They're going to have skill. They're going to be. I can tell you this: they're going to play hard. They're going to play extremely, extremely hard, and that makes up for a lot of mistakes. And our kids got to be prepared for that level of play. Just the competition level picks up when you're playing a military academy. But that offense is, I know it. I played it. That's what Springfield was, man. That's what we were, triple option all the way through. And I can see what they're trying to do. I understand what they're trying to do, but to replicate the speed is impossible.
And Coach, you got a chance last year for the game Lehigh Lafayette, and we always talk a lot of rivalry games across college football. How special was that? Your first time in that game, coaching in that game?
It was cool. It was really neat. Being a part of the Yale Harvard rivalry and now the Lehigh rivalry. It was pretty cool. It was it was awesome. I talked to our alums a lot. There was a situation. We took the lead just before the half. We had an injured player down, we were jogging off the field, and that's when you realize, holy crap, this stadium is packed. It's loud. The alumni are right on the sideline. It was electric. And then we went into halftime, and the whole tide turned after that. But it's something you want to be a part of. It's why you coach. It's why you compete. It's why you want to play in those games. And it's real. It was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to, more of those in the future. Taking care of the ones before that game, but looking forward to those again.
Do you get a chance to talk to Coach Conlon quite a bit now that you
Yeah.
guys are rivals?
Yeah, we're rivals. We're also really good friends. So, we'll text quite a bit. I'm really close with Joe. I'm really close with Stan as well. And, we don't talk week of, but if there's some things going on with the program and big, college football rules or something like that, just, we don't give tips, but we give suggestions of how we're handling things. And, just on a personal note too, we see how each other are doing too.
And I know I asked you last year this question, Coach, but it's so hard to find sometimes coaches that have the experience of your two coordinators. And, Coach Hunt, obviously a long time at Colgate, and Coach Nagy was my defensive coordinator at Fordham when I was there. And to have two guys like that at your coordinator levels, I mean, how special is that?
It allows me to be a head coach. And there's so many things that go into being a head coach that I didn't even know about. I'm worrying about things that I didn't think I'd have to worry about as a coordinator. You don't realize what the head coach does. And there's numerous times Dan and I will laugh, and I'll, okay, you want to switch offices? And he said, hell no, I don't want that role ever again, And he's like, that's why I'm calling plays. So we joke about it, and Rich is the same way. He handles the defense, and I'll come in with suggestions and, get shot down all the time. And I appreciate that. And same thing offensively. They hear me out and run the play, don't run the play. I don't care. I just give them suggestions. And but it allows me to be a head coach and really focus on what we're trying to build and get this culture back to what Lehigh should be, and programmatically taking care of a lot of things. So it's been really helpful to have those two guys.
And I was just going to say, when I was at Fordham from 98 to 02, Lehigh was the team. I mean, Colgate had some good years too, don't get me wrong, but it was always Lehigh, Colgate. We had a really good year, my 2001 year at Fordham. But what do you guys need to do to get the program back to where it was? I know it takes time.
That's
the big
what we
thing,
need.
right?
We need time. And time doesn't exist anymore in college athletics. Everybody wants the quick fix, and we're not going to fix it in the transfer portal. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the Patriot League. Transfer portal doesn't really exist because of the academic rigors, which I appreciate. This is, I guess, the old school way. You recruit kids out of high school, you develop them, they have to grow up, and when you're playing with a bunch of juniors and seniors, you're going to have a good football team. When you're playing with a bunch of, freshmen and sophomores, they should be playing in a JV game, which we don't have. So we have to grow up, and it goes back to the depth. We need to develop our depth. I feel much more comfortable this year going into our season than I did last year. I know the kids. The kids know me. They know the expectation. They know the standard of how we're going to operate on a day-to-day and a week-to-week mindset. So we feel better where we're at. Are we there? Are we back to Lehigh? No, we're not. We've got a lot of work to do. It'll take probably another recruiting class or two, and we'll feel like, we're not looking to just win one and be at top for one year. You got to have consistency, just like everybody else in our league is trying to replicate what Holy Cross just did. That's been done before. Lehigh has done that before. We have to get back to that mindset of winning, multiple times in a row, and it's not easy. And you try to win each game, and hopefully at the end of it, if you're doing things the right way, they hand you a trophy. So that's the goal right now, is just continue to develop all the players in our program.
Have you been back this way in a while, Coach?
Yeah, I was up there briefly. Again, my parents don't like how often I'm not there. I got to get back more often. I didn't get to the Boilermaker. My sister and my nieces ran the Boilermaker. I didn't get to it this year. Was back for a family party. We were there, and we went up north to Malone, where my parents are from. So spent some time in upstate New York. I love going home. We go to our same restaurants that we go home to. My kids love going to certain places and hanging out and just being a part of Central New York.
Well, listen, man, I'm always it's tough because I cover mainly Colgate with Coach DeCoste in the fall. But I love following all you guys. So I'm a Patriot League junkie.
You are.
So I'm pulling for you.
I appreciate it.
I talk highly of you, and even from back when you were in high school and all that. but I know you'll get that thing turned around.
It's fun, and I appreciate you having me on. I know you got the Colgate local, and you got the Fordham ties, and you bring the Lehigh in too, and make the full swing of the Patriot League. And Rock, it's always good to see you, and it's always good to be on here anytime too.
All right, man. Well, say hi to Coach Nags for me, and say
I
hi to
will.
Coach Hunt for me, and maybe we can do it again during the year.
Absolutely. Reach out.
All right, man. Good
Talk to
luck
you.
to you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All
See
right,
you guys.
Coach. That was cool. Coach Cahill's again, it's so hard because I love covering Colgate. I have the Fordham ties with Coach Conlin and Coach Cahill. I mean, I try to cover and talk to everything Patriot League, when I can. And it's tough. Listen, as he said, is the Patriot League is like the Ivy League, where you don't get a lot of kids in the transfer portal. You have to recruit. And he had a huge class coming in, 30 freshmen coming in that you have to develop. Not a lot of freshmen walk in and play in any league, but you got to develop. But like he said, nowadays in college sports, it's like 1 year, 2 year. Everybody expects you to go 10-1, win a Patriot League title, get into the playoff. Lehigh, as I told Coach back when I played in that 98 to 2002, the Patriot League ran through Lehigh. Lehigh was really good. Colgate, of course, had really good teams as well. I think it was the 2000, as I just talked to Coach Acosti, the 2002, 2003 Colgate teams were really good. But it was Lehigh. Bucknell had some good teams back then, but Lehigh was the team you chased all the time in the Patriot League, and I expect a much upside improvement this year at Lehigh, and Coach Cahill, Coach Nagy, Coach Hunt, with the veteran coordinators that he has. I definitely think that they'll be heading in the right direction. So thanks, Coach, for taking the time to come on and talk some football. Up next here in just a minute or two, we'll talk to the Hartford head coach, Jim Kramer. Coach Kramer's coming off a year last year where they dominated the season. 10-1. They got beat to Indian River in the sectional finals 28-27, which was a really, really, really good football game. That game could have went either way. But we'll talk to the coach here in just a moment. He returns a lot of talent. I think they're going to be really good again this year. So we'll talk to Coach. And I always say this. I feel like I tell all the high school coaches the same thing, but I feel like these leagues just get tougher and tougher. When I was looking at schedules, I say, wow, like week in, week out. I know I talked to Coach Strife when we were talking about the double A's, the schedules. And then I talked to Coach Briggs with Helen Patton, in Class C. I mean, there's not an easy game. And New Hartford's going to open up against Adirondack, who Adirondack last year won the Class C championship last year. They finished 10-2. So that'll be a really good opening game for New Hartford. And it's really, really hard to believe. Week 0 college football last night. And then you have September 7th, you got high school football kicking off. We are right in the heart of things here in the fall, as all high school fall sports will be officially underway. So let's see. I think we got Coach Kramer on. There he is, Coach. What's happening? Oh, let me see. I can't hear Coach. Coach, I can't hear you. Let me see. How about now? Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you. I don't know if you got it on mute. Let me pull him off and try to bring him back on here. We'll see if Coach was having any technical difficulties or not, but we'll bring him back on here in just a second. Coach and Coach Cahill were teammates at Springfield. A huge coaching tree past players from Springfield there. So we'll get Coach on here in just a second, as we'll set to talk to Coach Kramer. As I said, had a fantastic year last year, 10-1, went all the way to the Section 3 finals against Indian River. And I think those two will be on a crash course again this upcoming year. I think it'll be them and Indian River again in that Class B Section 3 championship game. But Class B East last year was tight. CVA last year finished 7-3. You had Carthage up there at 5-4. Camden was right in the middle of the pack at 4-5. And then you got the Class B West, which is where Indian River was. So I think Class B is going to be tough again. I think Coach Kramer's schedule, when I look through it, in the East, you have Camden. Carthage was 5-4. CVA was 7-3. New Hartford was 10-1. Coach Kramer's alma mater, Oneida, was 3-5. And then you had VVS, at the bottom of B East. And then on the other side in the West, you had Indian River at 9-3. Chittenango was 5-4. Homer was 4-4. And then you had Institute of Technology and West Hill near the bottom of B West. So it'll be tough, but I know that Coach Kramer will have the kids ready to go for that opener against Adirondack. So we're just working to get him back on. I did not hear him. I heard myself, but let me see if we can swing back and get him back on. But what were your guys' thoughts? If you're listening, what were your guys' thoughts last night of week 0 in college football? Georgia Tech with a stunner week 0 against Florida State. As I said, I thought Georgia Tech controlled the line of scrimmage in that game. They ran the football well. They played really good defense up front. They didn't give up the big play downfield at all. And Florida State's got a wide array of talent on the outsides as far as speed and athleticism. But DJ just could not get the ball downfield at all. Looked good, didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't have any big plays, and they couldn't run the football against Georgia Tech. And if you didn't see that interview at the end of the game with Coach Pry, I thought it was a really, really, really good interview. So let's see if we can get Coach on here again. We hear you now, Coach?
How about now?
I got you.
We fought through it, Rock.
All right. Little technical difficulties. It's okay. So I was going to ask Coach Cahill for a story on you, but he said he enjoys following you guys and always loves following the football back home. And, man, I remember when he played, he was a hell of a quarterback.
Coach Cahill was one of the best players I've ever played with at Springfield. I tell you, great leader, no doubt. No surprise that he's a head coach in college and doing a great job. So definitely following his program at Lehigh.
Yeah, I think it'll be a better year for him this year. He's got 2 really good coordinators with a lot of experience in that Patriot League and at all levels, really. So he'll get it turned around
for sure.
So, Coach, let's talk about you last year, 10-1, and I was going through the schedule this year. You're going to open up again a non-league game against a really good Adirondack team that's been really good for the last 2 to 3 years. So, be a good test for you week 1.
Yeah, Adirondack brings back some really good skill players. Their quarterback is probably the best player in Class C returning, the Hennessy kid. They're always physical. They're going to play hard. They're going to bring a great crowd to our place, so it should be a fun environment for week 1.
So, Coach, last year you guys cruised to the Section 3 finals. I was going through some of your guys' in-game stats and stuff, and defensively, you guys didn't give up a lot of points last year. I know you're going to return some talent on both sides of the ball, but the game last year against Indian River, you don't want to look back on it, but what did that game do for you guys kind of in the off season and really in the camp?
Well, anytime you're challenged at that level, you go back and you reevaluate things you do well and things you need to correct. Obviously, personnel will be a little bit different this year, but it was important to play in that type of game. And that's why, I was so adamant of bringing Adirondack in week 1, because I think they're going to challenge us right away. And we're going to find out some things we do really well and some things we're going to have to continue to work on to hopefully continue to climb back to that spot we were last year.
And, Coach, you return your senior quarterback, Johnny Vitullo, who had a really good year last year for you on running the ball and throwing the ball. How much is it for you guys bringing somebody back with as much experience as John is?
John's actually only going to be a junior.
Oh, is he? Okay, so
Yeah,
that's even better. You got it for 2
yeah,
more years.
yeah. Johnny's a heck of a player. Cerebral kid, understands the game, leader, and he can throw it. He's your prototypical pocket type passer. Get the ball out quick into people's hands, can stretch the ball down the field. We're fortunate enough to have a really good group of playmakers around him, and we're excited to see what we can do.
Now you do lose your 2,000-yard back from last year, who was
Yeah.
everything for you, but how do you make up for that? Just with a wide variety of different players?
Well, I think
Hard
other
to
people,
replace.
yeah, he's like Cole Rue is a fantastic football player. He's doing a great job at University of Rochester right now for their football program. But you're not going to replace him with one guy. You're going to have to do it collectively. We're going to have to do it in a couple different creative ways. I think you may see us throw a little bit more. We're going to have a couple different guys running the ball. But I think a sign of a good team and a good program is a next man up mentality. And we had a guy, Vinny Finelli, that had a really good run, and then all of a sudden Alex Culver showed up, and then all of a sudden Cole Rue showed up. So we believe in what we do. We believe in the guys we have in our locker room, and we're excited for them and see what they do with their shot.
Yeah, and you return a lot of the skill kids on the outside to go along with John. So those guys on the outside will help you as well.
Yeah, the Way kid and the Weller kid have played a lot of snaps for us. They're very explosive. They've had a great offseason. We have some other guys that have stepped up that we're excited. We've created some depth in that area. So things are well. First week of camp, as we say, we're undefeated versus the garbage cans right now. Now we got to see what we do against some real bodies. But we believe in our guys and believe in what we're doing.
So I was just saying, when I was talking to some of the other coaches, I feel like I say the same thing that I say, like the schedules, and I think the leagues have gotten better and better,
Yeah.
from top to bottom. It's kind of a little bit more balanced. And I was looking at your guys as B East and then B West. Is the Carthages were good last year. CVA won 7 games last year. It seems like a lot of the teams have improved.
Yeah, I mean, the addition of Indian River and Carthage in the Class B football in the last couple of years automatically makes the classification that much stronger. Your traditional power of Homer, who's had a great run
Yeah.
on the other side, and I think that the teams in the B East continually get strong, and I think a sign of that is you look at a lot of Class B, C, D football. There's not a ton of JV programs. There's a lot of modified 7, 8, 9 at those size schools. But your Class B East schools, your traditional schools, your CVA, Oneida VBS, Camden, all have JV teams, and you're seeing the numbers, and you're seeing kids develop and improve. And each Friday night, you got to bring it, or the team can beat you. And well-coached teams that I'm very fortunate to have relationships with those guys. I respect what they do with their programs. Makes it fun for the area.
Coach, I think this is what, year 7 at New Hartford for you?
This will be, you got me really doing some count here. I think we're in that ballpark
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
So from the time you got the job, I know you knew the history of New Hartford,
Yeah.
how far back the roots go. Where would you assess in year 7 for you where you're at with the program?
Well, we knew it was going to take a year or two to get this thing going, as far as getting a staff in place that we felt confident with, and getting our program numbers up. But I'm pleased with our numbers. I think we have great families. We have kids and families that commit to our off-season program. They support what we do. The kids show up every day and work hard, and that's what it's all about. Like high school football, your roster, you're not out recruiting. There's no transfer portal. There's no NIL. You show up with what you got, and you ask those kids to work as hard as they can. And we've been fortunate enough to have fantastic kids, really good football players, really good families, and my coaching staff is second to none. So I'm really pleased with where we're at. As a competitor, you want to keep climbing. You want to keep reaching for more, and that's what we're doing. But proud to coach at New Hartford. Proud to be a part of the program. I think we talk all the time. We have 3 decals on our helmets, and I talk to the boys about, we have a stripe down the middle that talks about our journey we're going to make this year. We talk about the Spartan head on the side. representing our school and our community, and we talk about the number on the other side that represents themselves and their family. So we feel very strongly about that, and I just like going to coach every day with them. That's fun for me.
And coach, you talk about the coaching staff, and I think when I look around high school football, you see a lot of staffs change year in and year out. And you've been fortunate enough; you've had some guys with a lot of head coaching experience. How much does that help you to just be able to run the program, having guys like that?
Well, I think it's just, now we're on year 7 together, the 4 of us, and actually going to bring in a 5th guy this year, and John Vitullo's father, who was on our JV staff last year, but was a player at Cornell, a linebacker at Cornell, and was a graduate assistant for Coach Ford at UAlbany. So just another guy with experience and is good with kids. But Herto, Kempney, and Swavely are fantastic. We have a great relationship with one another. The trust to be able to run a drill on one end of the field and know that what's going on in the other end is high level, and that's a great feeling. We want what's best for kids. We want to challenge them. We want to love them and make it fun for them. And we enjoy being around each other.
Coach, and I know coaching runs deep in your family with you got your brothers and your sister
Yeah.
coaching, and dad, longtime coach too. Who's the more competitive one in the family when it comes to coaching?
That's funny. I talk to my kids a lot about knowing when to turn it on and turn it off. I think there's probably some siblings that could work on turning it off a little bit in some certain situations. I don't think we need to be diving on the pickleball courts, but I think in preparation and game day atmosphere, I'm willing to take myself towards the top of that list.
So how nice is it though that I'm sure I know Nolan used to always say, "Geez, my grandpa would always after a little league game would always give my dad the lecture." Does dad still give you his thoughts on a game afterwards?
Dad showed up at a team camp one night, and he was reading. I looked up there. There was probably 15 people in the stands watching, and he was up there reading a newspaper. So, I just sat there and laughed. But he's great. It's great to obviously the camaraderie in the family and being able to bounce ideas off each other. When people go through it, when it's the right time to talk or when it's not the right time sometimes. And they've always been there for me, and Sarah as well. My wife, just fantastic. And that's what allows you to do it for so long. You have to have a support system that supports you and understands what it takes to do it at a high level and wants you to do it at a high level. So I'm very thankful for that.
Well, Coach, we'll be following you this season. Hopefully, we can do it again soon. And best of luck. And I appreciate you always taking the time to come on with me.
Always great, Rock. Thanks for having us. Thanks for supporting high school football in the area.
No problem, Coach. Have a good day. Good luck this year.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rock. Bye-bye.
So that was Coach Jim Kramer. Always great to have Coach on to talk high school football with. I was fortunate enough to be able to coach some baseball with him over the years and see our kids, grow as over the years as well. And one of the best coaches to be around at any level. Knows the game in and out, how he treats kids, how he treats players, the development and stuff. One of the best to do it. So best of luck to Coach Kramer. And as I said, I still think they're going to be on a crash course where it's New Hartford, Indian River Part 2 this year for the Class B Section 3 title. But week by week, got to look day by day. You can't look too far ahead. So I want to make sure I thank Coach Cahill for coming on to talk some Lehigh football, some more Patriot League football. Tomorrow night, 6:30, make sure to tune in. I go one-on-one with Coach Stan DeCosti, the head coach at Colgate. We'll be doing a couple shows throughout the fall, talking nothing but Colgate football. And of course, we'll get around the Patriot League with him. Thanks to the Coach Kramer for coming on and talking some New Hartford football with me. And hopefully we'll get the guys back here next Sunday as well. So on behalf of myself, Coach Pags, Coach Medicis, and the Stat Man, thanks for tuning in today to the Mohawk Valley